just that I'm more behind them in 3. I like their stories and their synergy a lot in 3. But 4 did bring a lot, though. 4 brought so much just with, like we talked about, in that high school parking lot early in the movie. They were still really tight. Mm-hmm. I just like the circumstances more, I guess. I feel like they worked better with the circumstances in 3. Where Freddy was a known entity. They were already on a team. That really created a lot of favor for me. So it's 3, 4, 5 for me. I think 3 plus 4, or 3 and 4 are both better than 5 for death scenes. I think that's hands down.
I think 5's the best looking. 3 has the best characters. 4 has the most surprising characters. Because I like the people. Like the weightlifter and Dan, they were nice. They weren't scruffians. I can't think of a better word.
Was it Sheila, the physics nerd?
Yes. Yeah.
Sheila,
and 4. Nerd. And I recently went through all the Friday the 13th films. And in almost all those movies, there's always just like the dick, or like the rude blonde, or just the jerk, just a kid that you don't like at all. And I don't think there was a single one of those in 3, 4, and 5 on this. So I think the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise is stronger on characters for me, but I love Jason much more than Freddy. It's weird, but
Jason or Zombie Jason?
I like all of Jason.
Really? Okay. Yeah. So for me, I like Zombie Jason more.
I mean, like the lumbering in the second one, he places a head in a refrigerator, the weird sack, like the evolution. Now, I think it gets better just thinking about the evolution of the character, but nah. If I had to do like the best characters from Nightmare on Elm Street versus the best characters from Friday the 13th, it would be Friday the 13th heavy.
Right.
But well, I like Jason X, but those characters are nothing characters.
If there are any good characters.
There's nothing characters. Well, Brodsky is cool. But yeah, so that's it, man. I mean, I like this movie. I appreciate the direction, the cinematography, the production design. It had no time. People didn't sleep. They probably got too ambitious with it. Not ambitious, but they probably pushed it too far with the TV show and all that, oversaturated the market. But there's elements to this movie that I hope aren't lost. Like, there's good stuff in it.
You know, I think that this one, though, it did succeed on reaching the greatest, I don't know what to call it, emotional range including levity, even though that, like, Freddy wasn't funny. It's not about Freddy. Like in the very beginning, we got to grind our teeth for the paparazzi.
Yeah.
You know, things like that with Greta. And what I really loved, though, was how Dan's football recruiter that his dad found was in their graduation photo with their parents. Yeah. Remember how he sat on the chair very proudly after the mothers didn't want to sit next to each other? Like, that was a weird little bit that really stood out to me, because that's not just randomly throwing together a scene. Someone decided to have that football recruiter in there, and then they made it cheeky in a way that it stood out, and no one's sitting there like, why is he even there? Well, you know he's there because the dad likes him, and he seems to be pretty self-satisfied that he's in this picture.
Mm-hmm.
Like, things like that were really nice. And then way on the other end of the spectrum, again, I'm not talking about Freddy, meanness and levity right now. Never Sleep Again brings up, they want to bring up challenging issues like pregnancy and motherhood. But again, this also, it didn't just bring up pregnancy and motherhood. It brought up abortion. It looked at a child that, I don't know, in air quotes, should have been aborted as being horribly mutilated and monstrous and demonic, with disfigured legs and limbs and face. It took the woman who actually wanted to keep her teen pregnancy and literally brought up litigious action from people who didn't think that she should do that, even though her father was supportive of it. You know what I mean? So it brings up, it's not just throwing this heaviness of motherhood filter over things, which are there, but they're grabbing every contentious dimension of that could possibly happen to anybody in the worst or most challenging sense to this, you know, and again, the father dies. What do you do? Even just that notion. I think it's interesting that, again, so they cover that. And then again, the graduation, just something as light as that football recruiter. They do a good job capturing that, even though overall this is a very heavy movie. It still gives you those moments.
I definitely think it's better than where it's rated, but I understand the ratings.
It gets a bad rap. I think that if you weren't allowed to rate part 4 and 5 unless you watch part 3, 4, and 5 together, I think that the ratings of 4 and 5 would all be better.
Yeah.
Especially 5.
4 is almost fresh, which is crazy. 4 is almost there. And I know that's not the be-all, end-all.
It's so fun. It's because it's so fun, right? It makes up for a lot because it's so fun. Even though that beach scene shouldn't be there,
yeah, that's
right?
weird.
It shouldn't be there, but whatever. It's fun, and he puts on sunglasses, and there's a shark fin glove, right? But it's like, why is this here?
Reddest greenest, my hand is like a shark fin.
Right, Reddest greenest. Listen to the Deep Blue Sea podcast. I'm in episode 17.
Yeah, 2 of them. 2 of them. You had a bonus episode for that. Well, this was fun, man. Thank you for joining me, and I'm glad that we were able to unpack this, because I really didn't know how I was gonna get my head around it, but I'm really happy with how this went. This was good.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, like, of all the notes that I didn't talk about, this is one of the movies where I didn't talk about a huge amount of notes, and it's okay. It's just that I've got such a laundry list of things.
We didn't even bring up Jacob.
Right? Yeah. I mean, right. The kid. I mean, we didn't even bring up Jacob.
Yeah. Her kid.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, we barely talked about Freddy on skateboards. Freddy's a non-entity in this movie for me, though.
I think you're right. No, I think you're right. Because again, his kills aren't really there. His personality is pretty weak. Comparatively.
I compare nothing. I care nothing about Freddy in this movie. Nothing he does makes me. The only thing I liked is when he acts scared, and that was a neat moment. That's
momentarily. Yeah. Well, again, it was more about Alice and Amanda Kreuger and her connection to her unborn son, regardless of, by the way, the Jacob character. But then the Jacob character was good. That was kind of creepy. It was very interesting the way that they did that. By the way, I love that special effects gag when Jacob uses his power of the souls. When Freddy gave him the souls, obviously, throughout the movie, he uses that, he weaponizes that against Freddy. And then just like in part 4, we see the souls erupting their limbs and their faces from his body and restraining him and tearing him apart. And this one, it's a weird visual. It's almost like when you see an eyeball come out in a horror movie with the eyeball like with the optic nerve connecting into the socket. And they look like these things. Remember in the 90s there were these horror themed balls.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Like baseballs with like
balls. And
angry
should
faces.
Just, like, Google this stuff. I really wish I knew what they were called, like monster balls or something. But it had like a caricaturized face of each of his 3 victims from the movie, right? Kind of like Garbage Pail Kids. And they're and they're just tearing out of him, like pulling at him like dogs on a dog sled. I don't know. It was awesome, but it was a really weird visual. But
Monster Balls. That's the name of them.
Monster Balls, that's what they were called? Monster Balls?
20 Forgotten Toys. Puppy Surprise. Here, let me go down. My Pet Monster. Nope. Let me go. Remember 2XL? Pogs. Yeah, Monster Balls. That's the name.
Monster Balls. You know what else I loved was Boglins. Which were like puppets. But by the way, listeners, we mentioned over and over and over again, Never Sleep Again. That documentary about the whole franchise and the show is on YouTube in its entirety.
Oh, Mad Balls.
Mad Balls. Okay, Mad Balls. They even had like a Jason-like face. I think there was a hockey mask-like face. There was like a zombie or a Frankenstein-like face. They were weird things. But that's what those things made me think of. But yeah, no, the kid had a good arc, though. And you know, we don't need to get into it too much. There's so much stuff to talk about in this movie. We didn't talk about the opening. The opening is very interesting.
Oh,
actually.
With all the actors or the maniacs raping her.
It's like, listeners, we didn't talk about the asylum. We didn't talk about the sex scene in the beginning. We didn't talk about their interesting trend in shower scenes.
The Captain Ron scene where she gets locked in.
Right. We didn't talk about Freddy's resurrection scene and transformation scene. There's so much. The claymation of food rotting was cool. There's so much going on in this movie. Like really, they jammed a lot into this.
Him calling people bitch a lot.
He does that. That apparently bothered the actress playing Amanda Kreuger.
Yeah, my son was calling me a bitch. No,
yeah,
but
there's a lot in here, and I mean we're picking our high points, and honestly, I think we could have pivoted and we could have gone a totally different way and not talked about 10 things that we talked about, and gone and talked about 10 other things.
Lisa Wilcox as Alice, I think she really stepped it up. She felt a lot more comfortable in this role. Mm-hmm. I liked her a lot. The more I talk about it, the more I like it, I guess. It's visually arresting. It was rushed, but there's flaws to it, but it still has the ideas there. And even though the one writer who wrote the original script is like, they killed it. Like, get over yourself, dude. Like, you're getting paid and you're on this documentary. Like, you're sour grapes. You're throwing sour grapes at your horror film, your sophisticated horror script with big budget action scenes didn't work out. That's not Friday the 13th. Like, mm-hmm. Right? It's fair. Be realistic. It got made, at least. But I don't know. Yeah, no, you're right. There's a lot we didn't cover, but I think I'm happy where we're at, though, man. We did it. I'm proud of this. Any last thing you want to get out before we are out of here?
You know, I used to view this, even though I always, was well aware of 3, 4, 5, they're a continuous story, and all the others aren't. Really, even though 1 and 3 kind of try to connect. But that aside, I used to view 5 as so vastly inferior among the first 5, or even the first 6, to be honest. I used to very regularly, as a teen and my 20s, even most of my 30s, which is almost over, view 5 as vastly inferior. And more recently, I don't. More recently, I'm going to put it above, your Freddy's Dead. I think it's way above a Freddy's Dead. I think it's way above a Freddy versus Jason, even though Freddy versus Jason is more fun. Again, like so many movies that we have discussed, I like it more when I watch it more. And most viewers, even most listeners we have, will not watch these movies enough times, and let alone in succession. They're not going to geek out on it as much as we do to find that, but it's there. So if that sways whether or not you listeners decide to do a Freddy marathon or a mini Freddy marathon and watch 3, 4, and 5 in close succession, I hope you do make that decision, and I hope that you do see that your 4 is richer than you thought, even though it's always been a blast, and that your 5 is much richer than you thought, even though you probably thought it sucked. It's a movie that relies on the franchise's past more.
If I had to watch one of them, you changed my mind. If I had to watch one of them right now, I'd do 5 because I want to pause it and take pictures. I don't want to watch 3 again. I don't want to do 3. It hurts too much.
It's not a feel-good movie.
No, and it hit me hard, but I'm not going back to that. So I would do 5 then 4. I would. It's kind of weird, but I think 5's the shortest too. That kind of led to me wanting to watch it again.
It's an easy one. I don't think any of them are long, are they?
No, they're all like 90 minutes. But no, it was fun. Well, thank you for joining me, man. All right, so for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for John Levengood, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week.